Welcome to Nightmare Echoes. Listen, scream, and embrace your horror obsession. In this episode, Joseph is here to explore the world of Flatliners. How close was the medical practice in this movie? Did Joe get what was coming to him? And what amazing architecture can be seen in the movie? If you'd like to follow us on any of our social medias, the links are in the description. Next week on the podcast is The Watchers. But until then, a movie that might have you asking, would you kill for friendship? Flatliners. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Nightmare Echoes. I'm your host, Elazar. I'm joined again by Joseph. Joseph, how's it going?
It's going well, man. How are you doing?
Pretty good.
All right.
Today, we are covering Flatliners, the 1990 version, not the 2017 version. Doesn't mean we can't talk about it.
Yes.
Did by Joel Schumacher, who also did The Lost Boys, which I love. Batman and Robin, which is comical.
That's the one where they had nipples on their suits?
Yeah,
Okay,
and then I think Batman Forever had nipples on their suits as well. Phone Booth, which also has Kiefer Sutherland, and then St. Elmo's Fire is one of those big deal movies that he did.
Yeah.
It was written by Peter Filardi, who also wrote The Craft, also directed The Craft, and then he wrote the 2004 Salem's Lot.
Okay.
Or like the screenplay for it. I love the cast. It's got Kiefer Sutherland as Nelson Wright. He was in 24, Young Guns, A Few Good Men. But for horror movies, he was in Mirrors, The Lost Boys, and Dark City. Julia Roberts is Rachel Mannis. Pretty Woman, Aaron Brockovich, Leave the World Behind, Hook, Steel, Magnolias, and Mystic Pizza.
And was this her first Hollywood film, or was there something?
She was an extra in Mystic Pizza, but I think because Pretty Woman came out the year afterwards and made her a superstar. So the fact that the commentary I watched talked about how it was a really good deal for her because she got paid $550,000 to do this movie.
Is that crazy. Good or bad? I don't know.
I think it's good for a no-name actor.
Okay.
I think a lot of actors nowadays might struggle to get that amount and they're known. Like the bad guy in Iron Man 2, Mickey Rourke.
Oh, okay.
He turned down the role originally because they were only offering him $220,000 to be in the movie. And whatever fee he agreed to was not publicized. Like it was, I guess, in his contract that no one's going to know. But he had already won like big time awards. Yeah. And so for him to be offered such a low amount, and that's 2 decades later. So I think it was a good amount for her to make, especially to be one of 5 people in an ensemble cast.
Yeah.
It also has Kevin Bacon, was also in Leave the World Behind, Footloose, A Few Good Men, Hollow Man. He was in obviously Friday the 13th, which I love. Tremors, Stir of Echoes, so a lot of good stuff.
Yeah.
He was in the Guardians of the Galaxy Christmas special, which was fun. Oliver Platt as Randy Steckel, who was in Lake Placid. I like to joke around that his character went on to be in Chicago Med because he plays a doctor in that.
Gotcha. It's interesting with the opening credits. Sutherland is the first name you see. Then I think it's Roberts. Then I think Platt, and then Bacon is last.
Yeah, Willem Baldwin's.
Baldwin's in there too. I think he's before Platt, maybe.
Yeah, they gave Kevin Bacon the and credit, which seems to be a big deal for, like, if I can't be first, then I'm going to be the and credit. Like, you're going to give me and Kevin Bacon.
It's usually like somebody that's not like one of the major roles. It's more of like a side character, but it's like a famous actor, like, and so-and-so. And it's like, oh, yeah, that guy. It's a cameo, really, but he plays the gas station attendant.
Right. But I would say a good amount of the time, except for Oliver Platt's character, share the screen time a lot.
Yeah.
But as we'll get into it, Oliver Platt, though, still leaves a lasting impression because he helped change a lot of his own lines to be very comical.
Yeah, he's definitely the comic relief here.
Yeah. William Baldwin is Joe Hurley. He was in Backdraft, Fair Game, Sliver, and the Purge TV series. It had a budget of $26 million, and it made a box office $61.5 million. Although, according to the commentary, they didn't track worldwide profits back then like they do today, but they believe it made $150 million worldwide. But the movie starts with these statues in the Chicago area. We have some religious choir music. These statues that they're showing right at the beginning is this famous statue. It's 126 feet, 10 inches in length. It has 100 figures facing a pool of water. It represents humanity from birth to death. The Fountain of Time by Lorado Taft. And on the other side is the figure that represents time that is watching over humanity.
Okay. Yeah, it's interesting. I was surprised that no other movies have ever used, or maybe they did, but maybe not to the same extent that he uses them here.
Yeah, there's a lot right off the bat. We're seeing this is going to have a lot of amazing architecture in it. They're going to
Yeah,
focus a lot on the beautiful area of Chicago, which I think is pretty cool. I definitely recognize the railway system. I think it's
yeah,
very recognizable. And I have been to Chicago a few times, but I feel like in a lot of TV shows like ER, you're always seeing that railway
sure.
system.
Yeah,
And then we pretty much run into Keith Sutherland's character. He's outside of the Loyola University in Chicago, which is over 100 years old. He's walking by the water and he's smiling, and we zoom into his face and he says, "Today is a good day to die."
he does say that, which, yeah, kind of goes on to something another character says later on, but I think
Sure.
that that might be misinterpretation.
Yeah, yeah. We cut to the hospital where Kevin Bacon's character,
David
David, thank you.
Brashko.
Yep,
Yeah,
David.
about the scene, they make it very frantic and
Hmm.
just like shit's going down. He's just dealing med students with some trauma patients coming in.
Right. There's one character, he leaves that they say is a crack addict. He goes to another patient that's having a lot of bleeding, and they believe that she had a street abortion. And so he thinks he could save her life, even though everybody around him tells him he's not allowed to do it. He says he knows how to do the procedure, so he's going to do it. He's just a medical student. So when the doctor shows up, the doctor kicks him out. Then his teacher's right there, his professor's right there to scold him, get after him.
Yeah, I'm not sure if it was a nurse, but as he goes in the room to do it, a woman walks away down the hall and
Yeah.
she's kind of behind that other doctor attending. So she kind of like tattles on him, but for good reason, because like, yeah, lawsuit waiting to happen. Even if
And it could
they,
be her career on the line.
oh, yeah,
Then we're back to Nelson. He's walking into this building that's under construction. Then we cut to Randall, and I feel that most of the movie they go back and forth between saying their first names and their
sure.
last names. I think he is referred by Stecco way more than he is Randy,
Yeah.
but for the sake of making it simple for people that may have not seen this movie, I'm going to try to stick to all of their first names.
Sure. You get a scene of his apartment, and it looks like a normal, traditional, what you would think of a modern day apartment. It doesn't look nearly as amazing as David's apartment or Nelson's apartment.
Yeah,
I don't think we ever get to see Rachel's apartment.
we
I
definitely
mean,
see Joe's.
I know we do see hers a little bit, but not nearly the wide shots that we do of the other two, and we do see Joe's as well, but his looks kind of lofty, kind of, yeah,
Yeah.
a lot of stairs.
Yeah.
But Randy does like The Cure. There's a
Yeah.
poster of The Cure in the background there in that
That's
scene.
cool.
Yeah.
Back to Nelson, who's inside the building, and there's a section of the wall that's having restorations done. It's a painting of Prometheus where he's giving fire to humans. There's people working on it. He tells the people that they're doing a good job, and they're like, "Who the heck is this guy?" But he walks to another room. He walks by a big head of Mercury, the messenger god, and the commentary wanted us to know that that was put there because Mercury is said to have escorted people that are dead to the underworld.
Yeah.
So
I knew it was like Greek and Roman stuff, but I didn't know I knew Prometheus, obviously, but I didn't know Mercury did that. So that makes sense.
we then cut to what looks like the support group, people that have had near death experience. And it's Julia Roberts' character, Rachel, who's actually listening to some of her patients talk about their experiences. But we get all these different people's perspective on what they did see and didn't see. Some people saw a light, some people didn't see a light. One of the patients is Terry, who we definitely see later in the movie.
Yeah.
She seems to be going to college there, but she also seems to be
Be a
a
patient here in
patient
this
in
scene.
this scene.
Yeah.
That's
Maybe
weird.
a car accident. Maybe she was stressed out with all the studying for med school. I don't know.
It
But
could be
yeah.
it. And then a nurse like kind of whistles to warn Rachel that one of the attendees is coming by. So she gets up really quick to look like she's working. The nurse tells her that she's heard there's some trouble in the ED, so she needs to be on her best behavior. And I think they're referring to David, who just got in trouble.
Yeah. I don't know what she was supposed to be doing, but it's clearly not talking to the patients about near death experiences. So
Right.
that's extracurricular.
Then we cut to class where Randy is partnered with Nelson.
I'm not a doctor, but yeah, like they are in this big. A lot of the scenes, probably for the atmospheric effect, it's all really dark in these places, but they are dissecting parts of the human body. You think you'd want like nice lighting so you can see exactly what you're doing, but that's not the case here. On top of that, behind them, it's kind of like I don't know how many sides, but it's kind of like a roundish room with
Right.
like, I think it had like 8 different bodies in there. But at each section behind the students where they're at are like probably 12-foot tall paintings of like Greek Roman mythology, it looks like. Yeah, I don't know if that's actually how med schools look like where they do their surgeries. I would tend to doubt that, but it looks great in the scene. It's just I don't think it's,
Yeah.
the norm.
How
But yeah,
much blood
just
getting on him?
I
Yeah.
know, I know. Yeah, yeah. It's like, whoops, this guy's a squirter. Like, okay, shit. Yeah. I got some formaldehyde up on that shit. Yay. And the other thing I was thinking too is just like I know they're dead and preserved bodies, but still, wouldn't you want some PPP on your face? Like eye shield. Maybe they didn't have it. This is the 90s. Things were different then.
Maybe. I think people still wore face masks during surgery.
Yeah, I've known a few med students in my time, and they would have something they would put underneath their nose
Okay.
to help with any of the extraneous nasty smells as
Oh
well.
yeah.
So,
Right.
but then you'd have your Hollywood actors that you're paying to see their face, but you don't want
Yes.
them to have masks on or weird stuff under their nose. So, yeah. But
All right,
anyway, yes.
yeah. So in this scene, Nelson's going around to try to convince people. The movie doesn't tell us yet what that is. They say things like, "We want to be part of your horror show," and he tells them that the true horror is ignorance. That they need to find truth and knowledge, and that shouldn't be considered horror. Rachel shows up late to class, and William Baldwin's character Joe Hurley rolls a chair over and asks if she's dating anyone. He does tell her that there's all these rumors about her being too frigid, but he doesn't believe them. He's trying to like hook up with her. She's very serious, asking him questions about anatomy. He asks one back. He pulls the blanket off to show the dead body's penis. And she says, "Your brains." And he says, "Correct," which I think is hilarious.
Yeah. So it's like, I mean, obviously, I think they all would have known each other at this point. I don't think this is like the first day of the semester or anything like that, judging from later scenes in the movie. Because by the pacing of the movie, you think it's all happening within like a week.
Maybe.
So, like, I think we don't know this yet, but I think the characters know Joe has a, what would you call it? A reputation
Sure.
around,
Right.
yeah,
I
I'll just
think
call it that.
I think what they know, he sleeps around with a lot of women. I
Yeah,
don't think they know the details of what he does
but we'll learn that
with that.
soon.
Right. Nelson walks over to ask if she's interested. He tells her that Randy and Joe are already in, so she just needs to be there to handle the injections and the IVs. And she tells him she has no interest in watching him kill himself. So we get some hint of what they're trying to do this
Some
night.
kind of experiment. And I mean, obviously, you know the name of the movie at this point, so
That's
flatlining,
true. Yeah,
meaning dying, and she just mentions killing herself. So it's like, but for what reason? We don't know that yet.
exactly. Then the teacher comes in. I hate the grading system in this freaking school, which I mean, I had some of these competitive things in college
Hmm.
as well. 3 A's are going to be given, 5 B's, 10 C's, and the remaining 4 will get D's and F's. Once again, in life, you're not competing against me, yourself, or the exam, but with each other.
Hmm.
And then later in the movie, competing with each other to
Exactly. Yeah.
do like, their times with this experiment, which is
Yeah.
good.
Yeah.
I think that's a good detail.
It's all about that, and definitely ego plays a big part. I think for many in any kind of like post grad field like that, they're competing with each other because, yeah.
Right. I remember one time, I think it was sociology statistics,
Mm.
where we took this test on computer. I was the first to finish. As I'm walking out, he goes, "Hey, you got 100. Good job." And I'm like cringe because the whole class
Yeah.
knows my grade. I'm like, "Oh no." And they're, I'm sure, all pissed. like,
It's
yeah.
like that with, I don't know, people just, yeah, don't say anything.
Then in the locker room, they're talking about not wanting to do it. He tells them they're going to be there. And he accuses them of not being a man, not having any balls to want to go through with this. They tell him that they don't think he has the balls to actually die tonight in his experiment. Then some student comes up and says, "Did you hear what happened to David?"
Nelson tells them just, you guys bring the equipment, I'll bring the balls.
Yeah, it's a good line.
Yeah, I thought that was good. And it's interesting too. I'm just thinking about this now, but like, could maybe Nelson not get the equipment?
Oh, I don't
You
know.
know, like I don't know why he puts it on them. Leads down to his character, but I kind of feel that he manipulates
Oh,
everybody,
yeah.
as we'll see later. And I don't know if that's more of his manipulating them. That way, if they happen to get caught, where are you going with this nitrous tank,
Yeah.
dude? Nowhere. Yeah, you're like, okay, you're
Sure.
Maybe suspended, maybe kicked out. Who knows? And like the other dude, he's like getting like a tackle box full of heart meds and shit, and a hospital bed too. It's just crazy. So I don't know if that's why he does that, or maybe they have access to it because they're in different rotations.
It could also be that, like, well, if you don't bring this machine, he doesn't have a chance of coming back. So I have to be there. I have to bring this machine or it won't work. So
Yeah,
that could be part of manipulating them as well.
sure.
And then you mentioned, how are they getting all this stuff to this museum? Because it doesn't seem to be a part of their school.
So, okay, so that's my thought. I didn't know. We know where like it's shot predominantly at Loyola and a few other areas around Chicago, but
Right.
Loyola and the Museum of Science and Industry, I believe, is another scene where they can at least get the exterior shots, and obviously it was filmed on some sets too. But I didn't know if when you listen to the commentary, did they say like it was all supposed to be like the campus of this supposed med school that they're at?
No, but I could believe that a university would have museums.
Sure.
Especially if you teach people to go into the field of archaeology, a museum might be something that you do.
Yeah.
So I can believe that it's supposed to be on the campus.
Yeah, because it's not clear. Being that we only see 2 vehicles
Right.
between the 5 cast members, I'm assuming that it's like supposed to be a building that's somewhere on campus so they can somewhat relatively move the stuff.
And later, Julia Roberts' character runs there in 9 minutes.
Yeah.
So it's close.
It must be close, so it's definitely not.
Okay. I know in the remake, they just used a basement room.
Okay.
Like a CAT scan room, I think, because
Okay.
they just use that bed to do their procedure in. So I think
Gotcha.
it's easier to get the equipment there.
Yeah, that would make more sense than wheeling it out through going down this versus like I can imagine they would have a lot of tunnels there because I mean, being it snows up there, so you might have tunnels from this building to that building. So you can kind of move it without people noticing and you're not outside in the elements. Total speculation on our parts, but yeah.
So we cut to Nelson, who is outside of David's room. Yeah, his apartment on the outside of his building. And David is rappelling down the building. He throws all of his stuff down and it looks like a military duffel bag. The director was asked to make it more of an action film. So he made David more outdoorsy guy. He's got this military Jeep. He's got this climbing equipment. It's just interesting that they went with this. I think he's supposed to be the oldest of the group.
It's interesting because I think like Nelson and David's character almost seem like peers. They have a mutual respect for each other. Whereas it feels like Nelson, I don't know if he's just an older year 4, year 3 students, and the other two, Randy and Joe, are maybe under him by a year or 2, or maybe he's just older in age. But he manipulates them more easily, whereas David, he's interested in doing this experiment, but I think there's like more of a mutual respect, or at least for Nelson to David.
Nelson telling me that there's no reason to run away because the 4-month suspension that he got is not going to affect his scholarship. David says that it doesn't matter because if he was given the same choice, he would do it again. He doesn't believe it's wrong because the patient was dying.
I mean, you got insurance, and that could be a lot of money, especially even more in our modern times.
Yeah,
it's pretty clear. David must be like an outdoorsy guy, though. Must be into mountain climbing, rock climbing.
Nelson asked David if he's going to be there tonight, and David obviously says, "There's definitely some people I want to kill right now, but you are not one of them." Mm-hmm. Nelson says that the dying part will work fine, but he thinks he needs David to actually bring him back to life.
Yeah, so this is like the only part where he kind of gets a little manipulation on him. Basically saying, I'm going to do it with or without you, man, but I'd rather have you there. What's David got to lose, really?
Yeah.
If he's already potentially kicked out.
Yeah. So. And as he's walking away, leaves him with a line of, but what if it works?
Yep.
Rachel's back in the hospital wing where she was at earlier. There's a patient there that tells her she doesn't want to be buried on Saturday because it's $150 more.
When she walks in, she actually takes a vase from Terry, who is a student there, but is also a patient right now, who is surrounded by cards, gifts, and a bunch of vases with flowers. And Rachel grabs one of them and puts it next to the old lady, Mrs. Avery. It's kind of like, no gifts, no flowers, no well wishes. It's kind of sad.
And we cut to Joe's apartment. He's having sex with a woman. And Joe is spending time looking up at this camera that he has set up in the rafters of his apartment. Then the phone rings. He ignores it because he's busy. But then the answer machine, which is different than nowadays where a voicemail would pick it up and no one would hear the message being left. But the answer machine plays the message out loud. So you could screen your phone calls and you could pick it up like, oh, I'm here.
Yep.
It tells him like, hey, we're meeting at this time and don't forget your camera. And then the woman's like, what camera? Which lets us, the audience, know she doesn't know she's being filmed.
Yeah, which is kind of a weird thing. Like you wouldn't, yeah, but yeah, for us because the camera pans up and shows the camera up there and his little rafters up there. I just
Right.
gotta say, not all Joes do this sort of thing. Okay,
Not all Josephs. Yeah.
not all Joes do this. Like
That's deep.
yeah, okay.
In the commentary, there was a review published about the remake saying that the original movie didn't age well because of this character, and that the people in the commentary feel like that we'll find out, he gets what's coming to him, and then they feel like the movie handled it well enough as a moral situation that he was punished for his actions. At least his life is somewhat set back from the plans he had.
Sure. Like it's so hard. I mean, I think he was treated with I don't know, not like kryptonite or something like oh what you're doing is horribly gross. He still obviously has I don't know, not friendships necessarily, but like
Yeah, I wonder
he
if
gets along with his colleagues.
Yeah, I think more that when his fiance dumps him, right? When all this goes down, I think maybe his family's going to get wind of why. At least her family will, and that might spread. So I think his home life outside of his career might be a little more awkward for a while. I guess the movie doesn't completely cover everything that happened. The way they mentioned it too, the way the remake handled it, they had a female character whose mom was pressuring her always to have the best grades, and she was a lot of stress all through her school life. So back in high school, there was a girl in class that did better than her in an exam and was praised by the teacher. And so she hacks into that girl's computer and finds nude pictures of that girl and spreads them all over the school, which hurt that girl's future. And so she has to seek out that girl.
Okay.
And at first she's mad, but in the end, she says thank you, and it seems to work, and that like lifts her curse or whatever off. So they did it in a more mild way, but still, like it's still a malicious act, but not like a repeated malicious act that someone is doing to like 20 different people.
Yeah, it's interesting, but we'll get into everybody else's stuff and we can kind of talk about each of what they did and how it was resolved, I guess, towards the end of after the movie. After. But yeah, it's hard. I mean, obviously we're post like Me Too and people that did this horrible stuff. Actually, Bill Cosby was taken to court. I mean, obviously he didn't do what Joe was doing. He was actually drugging people. Weinstein was forcibly raping people. It's not what this guy's doing. He's just lying to them to get them into bed, but it's still gross.
Well, I mean,
on top of the recording, obviously that's totally like out of bounds. But yeah,
right. Okay. All right. Yeah.
I'm not saying like no, that everything was fine. No, I'm not saying that. That's like a line that's like no way, dude. That is horrific.
So then we cut to Nelson's apartment, which is this massive freaking apartment.
Yes, it's like 12-foot tall ceilings in this apartment. It's all white in his apartment. Like there's not I don't think in his apartment there's really any photographs or pictures or posters on the walls, really, right?
I think there's a bed and a desk.
Yeah, and books and like a bookshelf or something. But yeah, nothing that makes it feel like a home.
And then on the floor are these like fluorescent light bulbs, these long fluorescent light bulbs, which they look beautiful and they give off an awesome aesthetic. But I'm just terrified that some idiot friend I would have would smash them.
Like, or spill something on them and short everything out. Who knows? Yeah. And I don't know if some apartments actually were lit like that in the 90s. I feel like it's for the aesthetics, but it's also maybe an older building. And so they hadn't retrofitted, put lights up there. I have no idea. But yeah, that was an interesting thing about the apartment. Made it look kind of more of a, I don't know my architecture or interior design words here, but that's how they are in this apartment. It's interesting.
Right.
But I did notice that it's kind of more like a sterile environment here, whereas we'll see the other people's apartments. Like Joe's, it's pretty messy.
It's lived in.
It's sure we can call that. Yeah, it's lived in. I'll be honest, my room back here is kind of messy, but I have photos and stuff that
Sure.
I like on the walls. Like, there's nothing there for me, anyways. It like makes me think, like, okay, does this character not have anybody? But we'll learn more about his character towards the end of the movie.
All right, then we get an exterior shot of that same building they were renovating earlier. We have a religious choir music start up again. Inside, we see Randy sneaking in a piece of medical equipment.
Yeah, I believe Randy has the nitrous oxide and the oxygen canisters and masks and all that stuff for that stuff.
He looks terrified that he's going to get caught. We see him duck around the corner, and then he sees Joe with a bed.
He has a tackle box with the heart meds, probably also syringes and needles and all that stuff in there.
Randy makes a joke that, of course, Joe would be the one with the bed.
So it's clearly like an open secret, like at least among this crew, like they know. But there's other scenes where people kind of are eyeing when he's talking to a woman, like other people seem to know. So it's, yeah. I think if you've known somebody like that, that reputation gets around. And I don't think he's ashamed of it.
No, he's probably bragging to Randy during their procedures that they're doing in school.
Probably so. Right. Poor Randy. Poor fucking Randy. You have to hear that bullshit.
Randy mentions that he thought that he would grow up once he was engaged. Joe says that he's just working through something before he's tied down in monogamy.
And the thing is, he doesn't have to get married. He could just live that bachelor life and do that. Like, he could totally just do that if he wanted to.
Especially with that doctor money.
Yeah.
So inside the room where the experiment will take place, Randy says that he's going to say goodbye to med school and his career. Nelson comes in to tell them not to turn on the room lights because security will come running. He tells them set up, and he's got the boiler running. On the wall, the wiring seems all out of place, like it definitely needs work. It's all exposed, and it doesn't look safe.
But it's clear like they're renovating it, so it looks like I'm not sure if they were restoring some of the paintings as well in there. Like we said, it looks like it's the wing of like some little art museum that they have here at the school.
Right.
So yeah, if they're renovating, because I mean they're going through like plastic sheeting and stuff, and it looks like there's definitely nothing really on the walls here at this area where they're doing the experiment. It definitely looks like it's getting a facelift.
Then Nelson walks them through his plan to stop his heart. They're worried that the others haven't arrived yet.
So his plan is he's gonna go under with nitrous, sodium pentothal. They have a blanket that can cool the body, and it can also be used to heat as well. So they're going to basically use some chilled D5W to bring his body temperature down to 86. At that point, they're going to shock him with the defibrillator at 200 joules, which should stop his heart, or so they say. I have not tried this at home.
Right.
And then, of course, once his heart is stopped beating, they remove the mask of nitrous. They put on the warm blanket because he says he's going to go under for a minute.
1 minute.
Then they're going to bring him up to 90 degrees slowly, inject a cc of epinephrine. At this point, he says Joe will bring him back with the defibs and bring him back to life because there's only 3 of them in the room at this point.
Then Rachel walks in to say, with brain damage. He says that won't happen as long as they keep his body at 98 degrees. And then Nelson asks her to handle the injections. Randy asks why he's doing this, and he says to see if there's life after death. And he adds that philosophy failed and religion failed, and now it's up to the physical sciences.
I don't know what he means by religion. The only thing I think of is like make the world better for everybody, like a utopia, but I don't know.
Yeah. I don't know. I would argue that people that are of the religion might believe that religion gave the answers he's looking for.
Sure. He's just faithless, right?
Yeah. So I don't know that his comment makes sense in that moment. Nelson hands them a letter to say this letter absolves you of everything. Randy's accusing Nelson of doing it for fame, and he says that fame is inevitable. Rachel doesn't like that answer at all, but she starts ejecting him anyway. Randy goes over to the corner to read the letter. Nelson requests the nitrous gas. Nelson says they're all professionals, and Joe jumps in asking Nelson, if you die, can I have your apartment? Which proves how professional he is.
Yeah, and I think this scene, subtly, we don't know yet, but this does lead to show more of Rachel's character, because I don't think she's there for the fame. She wants to make sure no one dies.
Exactly. Nelson asks Rachel for a goodbye kiss, and she says, I'll see you soon. Rachel's continuing the experiment. Randy comes over to say that the letter doesn't mean anything. Let's let him sleep it off. He'll have a wet dream and think he went to heaven. Joe agrees with Randy, and Rachel says that she knows why she is there since she's the only one with a backbone.
Hmm.
Randy tries to walk out, but hears someone coming. He's freaking out, but it turns out to be David. They think he's there to talk some sense into Rachel, but he steps in and saying he can actually do the stopping of the heart because he's got nothing left to lose.
Yeah.
When he does it, Joe and Randy all freak out, but then he flatlines.
Yeah. So should we explain what a flatline is?
I don't mind.
No. Yeah. It's depending on, it's an ECG or EKG monitor, and it just shows the heartbeat in most basic terms. Basically, once it flatlines, means your heart's not beating. So
Right.
probably
No more.
redundant here. Everybody should probably know that, but just in case you're listening and you do not.
Your love thumb, right? Love thumb
Yeah.
isn't there.
Yeah.
Right.
Exactly.
So David and Rachel make them wait the minute and order Joe to film it. We see in the camera, we get closer and closer to his head, then into his shut eye until we seem to be transported up to where is up for debate.
Sure. I guess
We
depends on your view of religion, non-religion, and afterlife in general, I guess. Or
right.
just
Well,
really,
yeah.
yeah.
And,
Or
and,
dream states in
yeah.
between, yeah, brain death, and yeah, who knows?
And I don't know that the movie actually explicitly tells us either.
No, it does not. No, it does not.
Right.
Which is a good thing. Keeps it
Yeah.
open and let the viewer decide versus this is how it is, and people can fight over it.
Right. So I called them Vision Quests this whole time. So we're flying over a field of flowers. Then we cut to them getting ready to bring him back. In the field, there are 3 boys running with a dog. At the minute mark, they're trying to bring him back, and the Vision Quest, it now gets dark.
Then I forgot to mention this, but I noticed
Sure.
it in Nelson's Vision Quest. There's this thing, I don't know what it is. It's those little like kind of art pieces that go with the wind, and as the wind blows, there's some little thing that moves.
Yeah, like farms having to tell the direction of the wind and stuff.
Yeah, but it's like an extra piece where it has like an animated thing where my mom had one where it was like a rowboat, and so it would look like the wind's blowing, that he would be rowing faster. And this one, it is a butcher chopping on a butcher knife on a butcher block. So it's kind of a little darker, grim. I guess it depends on your view of butchering something, but it's not a man rowing a boat. That's like pretty
Right.
neutral, right? But anyways,
Yeah.
I just wanted to add that you see that in Nelson's thing here. So it might lead to what's going on, foreshadowing.
They just start acting like it's Code Blue to hospital, and they're pushing sodium bicarb, epinephrine, while doing CPR to keep oxygen going to his brain.
And I know they're actors. I was reading that they did work with some med person to kind of go through the motions on that, but it just seems like they are going a little bit too slow on the CPR, on the chest compressions.
And I feel like they're too weak as well.
Yeah, and I don't know if it was, maybe that's how it was back then, and medical knowledge has advanced in the last, 30 years now at this point?
Yeah.
But yeah, definitely, probably not nearly. Because I guess, did they say were they doing it on themselves?
I don't think they were dummies. I think they were the actors.
Okay.
So I think if they did it in the real way that they should, the actor might get hurt.
Yeah.
You could really cause some bruising, some cracked ribs. It would be a problem. So when the characters are off to the side doing CPR beside them instead of above them,
yeah,
I think it's really protecting the actor.
Sure. I think to person not in the medical field,
you wouldn't notice.
I don't notice a thing.
Right.
Yeah.
Then the kids and the dog come to this base of the tree and they're screaming up into its branches. And then Nelson is instantly in this very blue tunnel. It's very dark, a lot of pillars, where one boy wearing a zip-up hoodie is standing. And that's when the group gets him back. They're all happy, and Randy seems more relieved.
And the boy has kind of a neutral face. He's kind of just looking into the camera. He's not smiling. He's not scowling or anything like that.
Right.
But, I mean, you have a hoodie on. You're up to no good, right?
Well, see, that's funny because I was wearing one today because it was raining here.
No, only horrible people think that. Hoodies are fine.
That's too funny. Oh, man. More upbeat music is playing as they leave the building and they're celebrating. They take a right, and on the drive, the light in the Jeep is very blue, just like the tunnel in his Vision Quest.
Mm-hmm.
They pull over at like a Chinese market / bodega where they ask him about what happened. Rachel asks if he saw a light, and he says no, but there was something out there, and it was comforting. Joe and Randy are very excited, but David wants to give him some space and ask them to go buy him some fluids while he checks his vitals.
Yeah, he's checking his vitals, and then Nelson kind of goes into this thing. And did you ever watch King of the Hill?
A few episodes.
There's an episode. So basically what Nelson's saying to David is like, I can hear things I can notice things more. I can hear the traffic on the lakeshore, and then kind of David looks and nods at him. He's like, yeah, I can hear it too. I can hear the hum of the street lights. He's like, okay, yeah. And then underneath that, I hear a dragging sound. To that, David nods no. But in this particular episode, Bobby Hill is diagnosed with ADHD and he takes Ritalin or some Adderall, methamphetamine salts. And there's a couple of scenes through that whole episode where it's like the first one I think is where he's on a school bus going to school and he hears this rubbing sound. And
Okay.
it kind of zooms in and you see something moving on the outside of the window of the bus. And then it zooms in closer and it's a fly rubbing its legs on the outside of the bus as the bus is driving. So it has like superhuman hearing and stuff because the Ritalin and stuff. It's just, it made me think of this where he's talking. Yeah.
That's funny.
So,
Okay. That's
anyways, for those
interesting.
King of the Hill fans.
Right. So, slight detail about the remake, the characters that come back seem to be excelling at their classes more. Like if their memory has been enhanced, so they're able to recall what drugs are proper to use in specific cases with patients, and they look like they're more studied in class because they seem to recall anything that has ever been taught to them before. Like their memory got perfect after coming back.
And here we have Rachel's character saying it could come back brain dead. So,
Yeah.
okay. When did that one come out?
2017.
It's about 20 years ago. Maybe medical science has advanced that much that all you med students and anybody in college flatline and then come back. Just kidding. Do not do that. That's a horrible idea.
In the commentary, they said that they were worried that in the years to come that someone would try to make this a reality show.
Oh, I mean, we're not there yet. Give
Right.
us some time, I guess. I don't know, man. Yeah.
So David asked Nelson if he'll be all right for a few minutes.
David goes into the store and he tells them that he's acting like Lazarus after he's been brought back from the dead. Biblical story, kids. Read the New Testament. He told him to bring in fluids, and I think Randy has some snacks. I think Joe has some snacks. Rachel did grab a thing of orange juice. David grabs an orange juice, but quickly opens it and drinks it for himself. And then David also grabs a sixer. So, yeah, I don't know what kind of fluids he meant, but I don't think beer would be the thing you'd want. I was figuring like electrolytes and Gatorade,
Right.
but
Yeah.
who knows what was available at this point. But
I
here
don't
we are.
know. Rachel says she wants to go next, but David doesn't want to let her go. Joe jumps in saying that he also would like to go next. Joe says he would like to be famous too, and David tells him that he will be, and that they're going to build little statues of him that say "Rest in Peace." Then a bidding war starts. Rachel says she'll do a minute 20, and Joe says he'll do a minute 30. Randy says they're both crazy. Rachel isn't willing to bid any higher. Joe thinks it's not a bad price to pay for fame and glory, and David tells him he can die one day, a hero, but he doesn't need to die to become a celebrity.
Yeah, gets back to the competition that we mentioned earlier here. They're already kind of wagering. But then we get to hear back a moment ago, Nelson said he heard some dragging. Not only do we hear some dragging sound, we also hear a jingling of like a dog collar as we see a dog clearly with some bandages kind of wrapped around its waist and hind legs, dragging itself towards him up this kind of spooky street.
Yeah, the murals on the wall are creepy. These creepy
Yeah,
faces, like 2 stories tall. And then the lighting switches to this dark blue, which I feel like he's blue
Rachel's red.
and David's green.
Okay.
I feel like that they focus on this. I'm not sure what Joe's.
Joe's, it doesn't really kind of do
I
the
think it's
same
black and white.
thing. Yeah, I guess.
It's because all of his footage is black and white.
Yeah, and then when he has his visions in reality,
Right.
it's more like
normal.
real time. Yeah, it's normal.
Yeah. Okay.
So yeah.
The dog starts coming towards him. Nelson acts confused and he asks, Champ? Like, how could that be Champ? Then all of a sudden the blue light disappears. Everything becomes illuminated like normal. And then the dog isn't there.
Which is interesting how he handles this because it's like I don't know if it plays into his backstory, but at this point they're all med students, so they'd have a healthy footing in science and would be thinking about possible side effects of what just happened.
Sure.
But he would immediately try to like shake this off, not like, wait, okay. But you would think also if you start experiencing something like that, and especially other people talking about wanting to go next, I think you would tell them, but he does not do that.
No, he wants to keep going.
Yeah.
So as they come back out, David thinks someone should stay the night with Nelson, and Rachel volunteers. David can tell there's something bothering Nelson, but Nelson says he would just like to go home. Then we see the same dog running through a field of yellow flowers, more kids running, and it's very dark, and Nelson is falling through some branches and screaming. He wakes up, Rachel's there. The room is lit in yellow, and it looks like it's dusk because the sunlight is coming in from the outside. She woke up Nelson because she said he was hyperventilating, but he says that he's okay. She gives him his vitals, and he says that he bets 24 hours ago she didn't think she would be spending the night at his place.
Her character just gets it from every which way. Everybody's like, kiss goodbye, or you didn't think you'd be spending the night here. I'm like, damn, dude. That's so annoying.
Then we cut to Joe's video collection, which includes Monica, Paula, Shirley, Charlene, Gail, Tina, engagement party, Veronica, Jane, Brenda, Yali, Jackie, Kathy, Mona, Donna, and I think he's missing Barbarella.
Yeah, dude is competing with like Wilt Chamberlain or something, like just trying to get the numbers of how many women. What songs did I reference here? Oh, Mambo number five.
Yeah.
And then the Weezer song "Tired of Sex." Yeah.
I'd never heard that one before.
Oh yeah, it's off their second album.
Yeah, okay.
I think it's the track opener, but yeah.
The number one comment on there was a song that no fan could ever relate to. Which I thought was great.
Oh yeah.
So he puts on the tape of his engagement video and he calls his fiance Anne.
Mm-hmm.
She's excited to talk to him. She says she needs to either move to a closer college or get a faster car. And he tells her that he wishes they'd gotten married the last summer. She says that her mother was not ready for that kind of thing.
Which maybe her mom kind of sensed with motherly intuition about Joe's character. Or maybe it was just, you guys need to get your careers in order, so get through school and then get married.
So he starts saying things like if something should ever happen, she gets scared by this. He says he doesn't really mean anything, but she's obviously worried. And this obviously comes back to bite him later.
Yeah, it's interesting that he kind of causes something.
Yeah.
By this phone call, and it's pre-going under too, which is interesting. And it's weird. It's definitely like you could see if somebody calls you and is talking like that, you're immediately worried, thinking that they're having a mental health crisis of some sort, you know.
They might hurt themselves.
They might have, I owe a bookie a lot of money and I'm gonna have my legs broken or be dumped into the river. But yeah, definitely a scary phone call to receive.
So we cut to a tunnel. We're approaching it fast, and a soothing score is playing. We come out to what seems to be a water birth, and someone says it's a boy. We see a nipple, which I think represents him getting breastfed.
Really up close. Like at first, you don't even like, wait, oh no, that is a nipple. It's all black and white here too, like we mentioned.
Then it cuts through like birth to grown up and shows all the women in his life. There's a lot of little girls around, and then all of a sudden changes to beautiful women. A lot of them are naked. And then it starts spanning through a ton of women in his life. I tried to count at one point, and it's like there was 20, but then it sped through a bunch of them.
Yeah, some of them are topless, some of them are bras, some of them are just dresses. It's just all kinds, mostly scantily clad or titillating clothing. And yeah, it starts off from an angle kind of like knee height, and then it kind of gets taller, and he's kind of like looking at eye level when he's a kid, and then it's kind of looking kind of down angle on the older woman. Then it does a whole scanning of either women's faces or their chests as it kind of goes by.
And while this is happening, they're trying to bring him back. Rachel lets them know that they made it to 145. David wants to take over for Nelson, who's having trouble bringing him back. The group tells him to let David try, and David basically has to shove him out of the way.
Hits Joe's chest. Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Which is very professional. That's what you do.
You see it in movies all the time, though.
Oh yeah, you do.
Slam fist to the chest.
Yeah. God damn it, dead person! Ah!
That's gonna piss him off enough to come back. Yeah. I did note that while doing CPR, it's actually really good practice to switch off so no one's too exhausted, and then you could keep the heart pumping longer until more help arrives.
Yeah.
While David is trying, Nelson isn't sure what to do, and we cut back to Joe's vision quest. He's panning through some more legs and sexy lingerie, more women's bodies. Randy documents that the CPR was successful. When he comes back, it's hard to tell if Nelson is happy that he's back or not. Then after all this, the group goes to a restaurant to talk about what just happened.
Yeah, I think Nelson wants him to come back to progress the experiment because it's pretty much done if someone dies, right? Because they have
Right.
to report how this guy died. So, yeah. But I guess in Joe's case, they could have maybe put it up to autoerotic asphyxiation or something like that, especially with the tapes and all that stuff that he has in his apartment.
So it's interesting you say that, right? I'm trying to think of the timeline because I didn't really study the remake. I saw it a long time ago.
Okay.
But that's one thing the remake does is the character does die. And I
Oh,
want to say that one more person might go under, if not two, after the
after
person
the
dies.
death.
They spend a lot of time trying to cover up the evidence, so maybe they don't. Maybe
Okay.
when the character dies, they're trying to cover up the evidence and they're trying to solve what happened. And then the one character that goes under in the end is doing the same thing as our character here, kind of like the only way to solve this is to go under kind of thing.
Gotcha. Okay.
But yeah, they're at the restaurant. The lighting here is very orange. Joe's talking about what a great experience he had. David is still the skeptic, but Nelson asks him to let him talk, and Rachel wants him to define great. He says that in a funny way that it was almost erotic. Randy says into his little tape recorder, he's dead and he still gets laid. Um, and Nelson wants to go on by what he meant by erotic, and he said there was something he doesn't want to say that was casually wantingly sexual. And Randy's like, I would have never thought that in a million years.
Yeah.
But he said there was something feminine that was guiding him. Randy goes on the speech about how this is the next great frontier, listing many things that brought us here. First, you had the sea, then America, then the West, the moon, Mr. Leary, drugs, the inner journey, Miss McLean, our illustrious former First Lady, the outer journey, but this is ours.
Yeah, former first lady. So that would be this movie came out in the '90s. So that would be have been Nancy Reagan. She was into astrology. She actually was kind of not super specific details, but enough that would make somebody that's not inside the president's cabinet, somebody that was totally far outside of the president's cabinet and anybody in the White House. But that astrologer, she was telling that astrologer things about the
Okay.
presidency. But that's kind of what
Ah,
it's mentioning as that she was into astrology at least. I don't know if they were going into any political stuff
right.
about she was sharing.
Right. And in the commentary, they said that this is how they saw this movie as this is an unexplored, untapped frontier that a lot of movies haven't tackled. That they thought this was a new, fun direction to go. They also mentioned that there was a planned sequel where they didn't really write a script, but they kind of had the idea of the script where they were going to be doing something that would let them see how they would die in the future, but would be unable to change their fate no matter how much they tried. So David does have a funny line where they're talking about all the journeys that he's like, "Hey, we did have disco,"
Yeah,
which I thought
yeah.
was funny. Randy says they have something to upstate those fucking baby boomers, and that's when the lady that's working in the restaurant comes over and tells him to watch his mouth.
Who is a
Joe's
baby
all,
boomer?
yeah, right. Joe tells her that he died, came back from the dead, and she isn't impressed because she said she had Elvis in the restaurant last night.
Is that still a
Uh,
thing? Do people still get Elvis sightings? I don't
I
know.
don't know.
Yeah.
I haven't heard it referenced lately. I mean, the last movie that I can remember doing is Men in Black.
Yeah.
Rachel asked Joe if he thought it was difficult to get back, and he says no, not that he can remember. And David calls him out because he remembered everything else, and he says that they're both full of shit. Nelson tells him he wouldn't believe it either unless he had been there, and asks if he's willing to go next, which I kind of think is bullshit because Nelson went in believing that he was going to find something.
Hmm.
Joe jumps in saying that David's an atheist, so he should have nothing to lose. And Rachel says that she wants to go next. And then David says, no one is going next because there's nothing out there and it's too dangerous. Rachel says that they can't turn back now, and she's going at 150. David says that he will go at 2 minutes. And Randy tells him, but you just said, and he cuts him off saying, I changed my mind. And he's obviously doing this because he doesn't want Rachel to go. Rachel says 210, and he says 220. And then she looks down in defeat. Elson's excited that they have a winner, and Rachel storms off pissed.
Yeah, this is Nelson definitely manipulating people again. And obviously, people are wagering again, competing with themselves.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, and I think what Rachel says to David, because David runs after her, actually leaves the building, and I think he was trying to protect her and be
Right.
chivalrous. But yeah, he denies that. But whether his character knows it or whether it was on purpose, that's why he did it. Like, because clearly everybody's always joking with her about kissing or spending the night at their apartment, stuff like that. Whereas David never says that he actually is the only person that actually talks to her like a person,
Right.
which you want somebody to like you. That's a good idea.
Right.
Talking and communication.
Right.
But anyways, that's something that I just wanted to bring up about their characters, as it seems like if anybody, they have some chemistry clearly
Right.
on screen.
And in their conversation, he says that if he goes and there's nothing there, there's no reason for her to go. He does try to inquire to why she wants to go. She says it's personal. She walks off. He says that he's willing to give her a ride, and she doesn't take him up on that.
Yeah.
Oh, they do have a conversation here about where she tries to talk to the atheist about how everybody in different parts of the world come back recalling the same things in the same order. He tries to say that maybe something that's happening in the brain happens in all human brains and therefore it's perceived a certain way. And she says he's reaching.
But it's true. I mean, it's like from the moment everyone's born, they're indoctrinated with something, whether it's your parents or your grandparents. Even if your parents are atheists or whatever, flying spaghetti monsters, something, we're social creatures. You go to school with kids that believe in certain things and you just learn about what's out there, what people believe. So the only way you can actually do that is you raise somebody in a cage, a horrible existence. So then, hey, what did you see?
Yeah.
But so it's kind of a moot point, really. Like everybody has preconceived notions.
As the group all splits off, Nelson's walking. He's trying to light a cigarette in the rain, and he doesn't notice a bunch of cyclists that almost run him over.
I did want to mention that it's interesting. I know the movie, obviously, they're doing this experiment after hours, less people would be around. So then they're going and celebrating afterwards in the wee hours of the morning in Chicago. But they make it to where it is devoid of life. Like you do
Yeah.
not see very many people outside of the school campus when they're out there. There's the waitress. You don't see anybody in the Chinese market. You assume
I mean,
somebody's
if
there.
if
Just
those are the hours, right?
I was just, I mean, obviously 30 years ago, but yeah, I
Yeah.
was in Chicago a year ago, and like, dude, that place, it's like New York City. I mean, sure, there's like little pockets of more residential areas, but yeah, man, there are people walking around. So yeah, I'm sure maybe it was different in the late 80s, early 90s, but yeah,
Well, yeah, I guess they wouldn't have to pay extras and stuff.
exactly. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So David's walking in this alleyway. It's lit in red, and there's a man in a big coat with a hood. He looks at him and smiles. He passes by a bunch of shady looking activity. He's trying to keep his head down. Some woman is around him about money and appliances, but as he passes, she says, "Right, Nelson?" He turns to look at her. She looks right back at him and says, "Because in the end, we all know what we've done."
Foreshadowing.
He turns to walk away and go down some stairs, and there's all this smoke as he transitions to the stairs. They explained in the commentary that because the people that were doing all the shady activity were being warmed by trash can fires, they couldn't have a fire this close to the railway. So when he goes through that smoke, he's magically transported 3 city blocks down towards these stairs.
Okay, but you
It's
don't
supposed
know it in the film.
you
Yeah.
don't know it in the film. It did it really well, but they're explaining why all that smoke was there.
Okay, this scene,
Yeah.
what part is reality and what part is him vision questing while he's semi-lucid awake or whatever this is
I think
happening here, right?
I think the woman might have looked at him. I don't think she said what he thinks she said.
Okay, that's what my take is.
I
Like
I think that's the
yeah,
hallucination.
yeah, he's hearing something that she's not actually saying, but she's clearly not in her own right mind, so it doesn't matter what he would say to her. But it's just like, why does he start walking?
Yeah, where's she going?
Yeah. That was my thing. Was like, is
Is he
he a bit of a
trying to get jumped?
nihilist? And is yeah,
Yeah.
exactly, yeah.
So
So,
yeah, he
or
does
maybe
this.
was it drawing him? Because remember when he came out, what he sees is about what we're about to get to, but he sees
Well,
and when
yeah,
he first came back out. So I don't know if he
maybe the
was
hallucination
drawn.
scared him to take that left turn
Sure.
down these stairs, and that's how he ended up at this underground area where he hears this dog that he starts following, and so the dog gets him to go to this blue lit tunnel area with a bunch of pillars, which he had in his vision quest. And then he gets to this little boy that's there.
The
He
hoodie.
asks with the hoodie. He asks him if he's all right. And as he gets close up to the kid kicks him in the balls before punching him like 5 times in the gut and in the head, sitting him to the ground. Nelson looks back at the kid. He punches him in the face and he runs off.
Yeah, the kid punches Nelson again in the face. Nelson does
Right.
not raise a hand to the child because obviously Nelson is a man of astute character. Would never do something like that. No, I don't think he would actually hit a kid, but yeah. But again, maybe it's just because he's hallucinating. He's seeing this dog and he think it's real, even though it can't possibly be his dog. Anyways,
It's Halloween morning, and Randy's giving a monologue on how they're going to be amazing, or maybe they're just all fucked in the head. We have a scene where Joe's trying to pick up a girl named Terry, the same one from the hospital earlier, and he does this whole, "Oh, I heard you had a near-death experience. I had one too, and I've been looking to someone to talk about it." He starts to see a tape being played on a TV, which is showing his sex tape, but
I don't remember if it was like sport. I think it was a football game on.
okay.
And then it kind of just switches to that because you see as he starts talking to Terry, two other women on the couch watching TV kind of look back. And I think one actually taps the other one on the shoulder, kind of like, look what he's doing now. So it's kind of like beyond just the students that he works with. Maybe these are
Sure.
students in a lower class or whatever.
Or maybe other women he's trying to pick up,
Maybe that too.
whether
Yeah.
successful or not.
Yeah. But clearly, I think his reputation is far and wide known across his college campus. So yeah.
And then this footage that he's hallucinating, the woman looks at him and says, "Why did you do this to me, Joe?"
Yep.
So he's starting to see this weird stuff. At Nelson's apartment, he's stitching himself up like a badass, though he has a bloodshot eye. Afterwards, he puts on a new shirt and the room turns very blue lit. The shadow on the wall starts to creep him out, and he sees someone walking up to his door.
Yeah, it sounds like the dog dragging itself, almost maybe clawing at the window, but then when he looks there, it looks like legs and feet.
So he seems to run out a different exit. He goes out this door that says no entry, and then he sees someone's coming. He screams no, and this little girl comes around the corner and says trick or treat.
Yeah, and again, goes back to the apartment. What apartment has two entrances?
Yeah, I was wondering that
Like,
too.
I mean, yeah. Outside of the building, they do their
window.
clandestine experiment. They're having a party. There's like a bonfire, and there's a bunch of people in Halloween gear decked out.
Some of them are pretty creepy. The one woman with these giant fake breasts as her costume were hilarious.
Yeah, it's like a chest covering, and it's just giant. Yeah, but she has a skull mask on with like a bonnet. I don't know exactly what was going on there. Somebody dressed up as Elvis for the second Elvis reference here. Just like a group of people riding bicycles with, I guess, like just white sheets with like carved pumpkins, not like jack-o'-lantern style, but like kind of like a creepy face in the pumpkin. Yeah.
So inside, Randy is complaining that it's Halloween and there's a full moon, so they might be pushing it. And the people in the commentary did talk about the statistics of how often that would actually happen, where because you have the cycle of the moon is every 28 days, Halloween's always on the 31st. What are the chances that you are going to run into that? Maybe it's an omen and then you shouldn't be doing what you're doing.
Gotcha. Okay.
David is getting the table ready and Rachel is helping him prepare. Nelson walks in and they instantly notice his face. He tells him he got beat up by some really big guys and it doesn't matter. Rachel wants to take a look at it, but he's kind of got an attitude. He's like, "No, I'm fine."
Yeah, which is so weird because I think it's clear like the bonfire and the people celebrating Halloween are right outside the window here. And I'm like, that's the reason you wouldn't want to do the experiment right now. You'd at least wait till the party dies down, right? And it's like, why are they partying there?
I think it's because
Anyways,
it's an abandoned lot.
I guess.
Because it's under construction. There's cones everywhere. You're not supposed to be near the area.
So let's go near the area and have a party.
Right? Yeah, I guess so.
Plus a bonfire, like if you're not supposed to be there, that's gonna get campus security. Like, are those people over here having a bonfire like yards from the building? Like, what the fuck? anyways.
Joe walks in wearing a skeleton costume, telling the group he doesn't feel well, and Randy asks him if he's supposed to be Boner Man. As they put him under, Nelson looks worried. I think it really shows at this point this character hasn't grown or even learned anything because he's aware that something is being brought back with him, but Nelson does nothing to tell the other people in the group.
And as he's going under, he says, "Don't let go of the rope."
David, right? Yeah.
Yeah, and I don't know if that is maybe, yeah, it's definitely a climbing reference, right? But like maybe because he says it to Nelson, so maybe it's like him and Nelson kind of go back. Maybe there was an instance where there was almost an accident, I guess. Total speculation, but maybe it's just, I don't know any avid rock climbers that would use that as a saying, like sports terminology gets into conversations, you know?
So they lower his body temperature, inject some sodium pentothal before shocking him. The commentary people talked about that It's often used in movies as a truth serum because it makes people more susceptible to telling the truth, but doesn't force them to do so.
Yep.
The camera zooms through an eyelid, and we see a black and white shot of his eye. Once we zoom in, he starts remembering all the events of the movie in reverse before continuing through his life all the way back to birth. And then
Yeah, it's interesting because like in this, you see him as a kid, but there's a couple of scenes where it's like maybe he was into Western movies, or if maybe his character maybe have had some native ancestry, or if he was near a reservation. Because you see an indigenous person with like a feather headdress and like a couple of like stills as it kind of floods through a bunch of images, basically, which comes into a thing because he says something when he comes back.
so then we're flying through some mountains. We see Randy do more monologue, but it's pissing off Joe. Nelson asks Rachel, what if he doesn't make it back, before saying it's been 1 minute. More flying over the mountains, then back to the group where Nelson says they should maybe give him another 5 or 10 seconds. He's joking around like he's not taking this seriously. Joe protests, but then he's distracted by the monitors, which should be displaying the vital signs, but he sees the sex tapes. And so he runs in front of it to block him. So while earlier he didn't seem to think it was real, now he's worried that people are going to notice this. But then Rachel calls him out immediately for blocking the view.
Yeah, it's interesting because and she doesn't say like I want to watch your sex tape. It's like she clearly says I can't see the vitals. So and you see Nelson kind of just fudging, trying to add bonus time to somebody that's now under, and it's
Yeah.
kind of addressing to Rachel, kind of necking everybody on, trying to manipulate them. It's just, ugh.
Right. As they pass 210, Randy counts out every second. And then when it hits 220, Rachel says she wants to take over, but Nelson said this is his show and he calls the shots and he tells them 300 joules.
Which I was reading, and it's probably modern. It's typically about 150 joules.
Okay.
But they were starting at 200 before is what he mentioned, so now he's kicking it up to 300 for some reason. Not a doctor, so I don't know,
Right.
nor an EMT or anything like that. But yeah,
So on the Vision
so
Quest, David's now on a train and he's heading through a tunnel, and we hear kids starting chanting 369, the goose drank wine. And while the song is chanting, the little girl's walking. There's blue light behind her, and she looks really pissed off.
yeah,
Nelson's leading the CPR. He's still not taking it seriously. He pretends to not be able to count past 1,000. He's like, what number is next? As they shock him again, we see the Vision is now in a playground where there's kids are swinging, and it's very fast, but we see a little more detail where a bunch of kids are making fun of a little black girl, which we'll come to learn was the one that was on the train.
hmm
As the time passes 2:45, we get one misleading heartbeat, and the group continues their efforts. And at past 3 minutes, Nelson calls out that Joe isn't filming. As Joe starts filming again, he sees the sex tape through the camera that he's looking at, and the woman says, "Joe, you lied to me."
And just so the camera is one of those where it has an eyepiece that you look through. It doesn't have like the flip screen that you're looking
Oh,
at the
right,
screen, you know. So it's an older camera that's recording on tape, not digital as well. But yeah, he sees it through the eyepiece, and then he kind of puts
right.
the camera down. So yeah.
Which is funny because he puts the camera down. They get David back. He wakes up. He says this "hoka hey," and when we cut to a recording of him saying that,
hmm
but Joe had just put the camera down, but somehow still captured his face when he woke up saying "hoka hey."
So I think that when you see that, that's recording when he was going under, because he says it after he says, "Don't let go of the rope," and then he
Oh,
says,
okay,
"Okay, hey." So that's what that's from. And yeah, what I was reading, what he says in the movie is that it's a war cry of the Sioux Indians, which means today is a good day to die. But then from my brief searching of the interwebs, Hokahay is supposed to mean like "let's go." Because I think the actual quote from Crazy Horse is Hokahay, today is a good day to die.
right,
And so it's like he's leading a war band. Let's go, guys. Today is a good day to die. So,
gotcha. Oh,
but
hold on.
again, I was looking for actual Lakota. So I'm not 100% positive, but yeah.
It seems like the movie kind of looked it up but didn't really know what was going on.
Yeah, it might mean that, but it might just mean let's go. But
Yeah,
definitely they run with it as that, which of course the movie's about seeing stuff after you die. So
yeah. Nelson asks him if it was a good day to die, and David, as the skeptic, says he thinks he wasn't dead. He was just having a dream. Nelson tells him that he was brain dead, so there was no mind to dream. When Nelson convinces him,
says while it was hard to verbalize, it's like being paranoid without fear, like being watched but tries to downplay it like it was standing over him.
Okay, so in his vision quest, he's describing what he was doing.
Yeah, like he was watching, like he was
Yeah.
disembodied.
And then Randy's asking who would be watching us, and Nelson answers Randy's question with the dead. David says that he didn't say that, but Nelson says, but the skeptic did feel something. Nelson says he wants to go again, and Rachel says she's been bumped twice. Nelson says the bidding starts at 4 minutes. The group is confused. He explains that David was under for 350, and anything less would be redundant. Then they all say that that was a mistake, though, but Rachel jumps in with 425. Nelson bumps it to 5 minutes, but Rachel says she's next or she's out. As she gives this ultimatum, David says that 5 minutes will be hard enough without her, but if she quits, I'm out too. Randy and Joe jump in saying that they agree. Nelson calls it a mutiny, that he trusts them all with his idea that none of them had the balls to do. He tells Rachel she can go next, but the rest of the group is all just tourists.
I mean, technically all are. He just came up with this idea, but yeah, they're all just kind of visiting what it's like to die. But again, like now Joe is experiencing stuff. Nelson obviously is experiencing stuff and it's violent towards him, and no one's saying shit. Now, I don't know if Joe's not saying anything because he's scared to.
He says later that he thought it was brain damage.
Okay.
And he was, I could see.
That's right. Yeah, Randy has a line there.
Right. I could see where, like, if people start having heart problems, they're afraid to tell their loved ones, which should be the first thing you do. If you think you're having heart problems, tell your loved ones, hey, I think I'm having heart problems, see a doctor. But people are prideful of that. So if he's thinking he has brain damage or something, he came back wrong, he might be afraid to tell the group of this.
And I could see, like, okay, wait, is this guy's brain damaged? Do we want him to be responsible in some part of bringing us back to life? If he might misremember something or forget to do a step in CPR, who knows? Like, yeah, just any little minor step might lead to someone's ultimate death. So, yeah.
Right.
I guess I can get it, but yeah.
Randy and Joe are walking, and Randy's going on how he might have gone for 3 minutes, and he still might, but he thinks that 425 is crazy. We see that Joe's distracted by some more hallucinations on the TV's inside stores.
Yes, they're walking after the experiment.
Yeah. Randy's trying to talk to him about things, but he's not paying attention because he's distracted by these sex tapes. The last one is his fiance dancing with him, who says that she loves him. And then when Randy notices that he's not paying attention, he says, hey, Skeletor, are you listening to me?
Yeah, it's weird. Like, as you mentioned, whereas all his tapes were his, like, engagement party is mixed in with those secret recordings. Like, it's just kind of mixed all together, and now he's having visions of them plus this engagement party. It's just weird.
Nelson makes it home to his apartment. He turns on the lights, and we see those lights on the floor that turn on. He walks over to the bedroom. He doesn't turn the lights on in there, and he sees this dirty footprint on the bed, and he turns around. The kid from earlier now has a hockey stick in his hand, and he knocks him across the head before hitting him again and again and breaking it on his back. Then the kid gets on top of him and starts to form a big ball of spit, which it lands in his face as Nelson screams. David wakes up, sees Rachel's already getting ready for work. She asks him not to try to talk her out of that night, and does tell her when he asks that she's lost a lot of people close to her and she wants to know they have a good place to go. He then says that he didn't mention it before, but he felt that if he'd gone further, there was something protecting him, and he refers to it as good. And she's like, oh, so the skeptic now believes in God. And he says he just thinks she doesn't need to go. She says, well, think about all the things we'll have to talk about when I get back. But it does feel in the scene like he's just trying to pull this one out of nowhere, saying, oh, I think something good's out there, when he might not necessarily believe it. He's just trying to do something to convince her to not go at all.
Yeah, but I think everything he's saying is just making it more intriguing for her. So
right. At the hospital, Rachel's talking to Miss Amsler, who she says she's near death. Right. Yeah. She says there's voices that are telling her to let her go. Rachel encourages her that she has somewhere to go, and she means the afterlife.
Yeah. And then after this scene where she talks to her, it cuts to her, I guess, later on that day. She's drying her hair. She looks at a photo, and you see a child smiling next to a man in a military uniform with a very somber face. The camera zooms in, and there's books around the photo. All the books seem to be about death, either from a medical standpoint, an ethical standpoint. I think there's one actually titled Euthanasia, and other books are more philosophical.
Right. So now David is riding in a crowded train, which seems to be lit in green. When they go into a tunnel, the train gets very dark, and they will hear a voice of a little girl calling to David, and she calls him Fellatio. David is backlit in orange, but she's backlit in blue. She asks him if he has a match, and she says that she does. David's face to her ass.
Yeah, she then goes on with a stream of childish insults and more beyond childish of like calling somebody, for instance. I'll just read what she says. So some of them
Yeah.
are a little raunchier, shall we say. Your breath made of buffalo fart. You don't know jack shit. Butt wipe, needle dick, cock bite, jack off, limp wrist, cornhole, banana breath. There's one, the childish one, banana breath. Or buffalo fart, right? Shit bird, bird turd, turd face, kiss ass, brown nose, macho wimp, limp dick, fart face, tire merchant. What's the matter? Gonna cry? Cry baby Davy? Cry, cry. Shit face, rat turd, ass licking son of a bitch. Yeah. Just like a little girl suddenly on a train just going through this stream of like childish other stuff.
So at first, when she starts throwing out insults, he thinks she's funny. But the further she gets, he starts looking like, okay, this is embarrassing. What's going on here? He's confused. And when he snaps out of it, he looks like he had been holding his breath the whole time. Takes in this deep breath, which reminds me kind of in Stir of Echoes when he's in this sort of vision quest he has there, that when he is out, he takes in a deep breath as well, like, which is kind of crazy.
Yeah.
Back in the building that's under construction, it's raining outside. Rachel is questioning Nelson about his face, and he said he was playing hockey, which I don't think anyone believes.
But I mean, for him to be assaulted with a hockey stick, it would have had to have been there. This child from his vision quest is just making stuff up, as we'll see later on. It's definitely the figment is using stuff that is there at the time this happens. He actually must play hockey.
So the people in the commentary said that they saw it as the person who is suffering from this hallucination would be assaulting themselves.
Yes.
So in their point of view, Nelson would be hitting himself with a hockey stick, not the little boy. That blew my mind. I'd never thought of that.
Well, you see it coming up when he's the scene with David in the Jeep, because David sees him. It's like Fight Club. Oh, he's punching himself the whole time.
Right? Everyone's there but David, and Rachel says that he's just trying to make sure that she can't go through with it. Randy, ever the voice of reason, either he's a coward or he just doesn't want them to die. He says it's a bad idea to do this without David. Rachel asks if Nelson can bring her back without him, and he asks if she can trust him. She responds no, but they should do it anyway. As she's going under, we cut to another part of the building where David is running. He storms in the room even though she's only been under for 1:20 and says they need to bring her back now. Nelson argues that she agreed to 4:25 and David orders Joe to start the process. Nelson says that David shouldn't expect any hugs and kisses for this. As her vision quest starts, there's a painting of Jesus on the wall illuminated in red before we see people gathering around a cake that says welcome home daddy. Her dad has a military uniform on and everyone seems happy, but he looks like
just like that picture that she kind of looked at. So this is clearly her dad. They're throwing an excessive amount of confetti, but being that I'm assuming he was a Vietnam War vet, just with her age. But there's so much confetti being thrown, like it's into the drinks, on the food, on the cake. And I was like, I don't want to drink that punch.
Yeah.
But anyways, it's a celebration that the dude survived a horrible, shitty situation. And
right. We see young Rachel jump into his arms. He seems to be looking right at us, and we are seeing this through adult Rachel's eyes in her quest.
Like she's a disembodied entity watching this happen, yeah.
As they're working to bring her back, Randy is questioning why, and he says, ask Dr. Death, who is referring to Nelson. Nelson acts like he doesn't know what David is talking about. Randy and Joe say that they did not argue now. They need to focus on bringing her back. We see the water coming through the roof heavier. Then we see the power lines that we were talking about earlier. All the wires that were out. In the Vision Quest, Rachel's playing with the tambourine. The lighting in this Vision Quest seems normal until Rachel seems to go up the stairs, and we see behind this slightly open door is red light. As young Rachel goes in, she sees her father there. Her mother grabs her, knocking the tambourine out of her hands. While it is very muted, the mother tells her that she's been told she cannot go in there. Her dad runs out of the bathroom, kicks the tambourine, runs down the stairs. Her mom tells her that this is her fault. And we hear a loud bang, which might be a gunshot. Then we hear the sound of a flatline as we cut to them trying to bring her back.
I know it was a different time. I don't know exactly the medical history. I know there's shell shock syndrome and stuff like that. So probably just the inklings of what PTSD was and how to handle it compared to what we have now. But her mom says it's your fault as her dad runs out of the bathroom. And she's like just laying on what is clearly her character has been struggling with this psychological trauma, emotional trauma from her mother. I can only imagine what life was like for her after that if her mom blames her for what happens.
Sure.
Like, it's just the absolute mountains of fuck that she has to deal with because of her mom laying the blame at her feet. As a fucking 5-year-old, man, it's just
Right. Yeah, that's
wow,
insane.
wow. Yeah, yeah.
So as they're trying to bring her back, I noted that if they were really using the defibrillator, the shock paddles on her, that they would have taken any bra off that would have had metal on it because it would have burned her skin. And I'm not saying that we needed to see the actress topless. I'm just saying
I'm hearing you loud and clear. I'm hearing you loud and clear here, man. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. No,
And
yeah, yeah. There's definitely ways they could have done it where they could have like
they could have
had
blocked
her
her
do
well.
it and then have somebody. Then the camera's kind of behind somebody that would be blocking.
Right. Like the
Yeah,
way they stood. Yeah. But
yeah,
I just thought that's the only thing that made it a little unrealistic.
sure.
But
Because
yeah.
if she had and it was a underwire and that would have left some burn marks.
Yeah.
No es
All right.
bueno.
So the mom runs out, sees her husband in the car. He's shot himself. The bullet seems to have gone out the front windshield.
Yeah, I know they wanted to put the bullet wound come leaving the car, so you knew they didn't have to show too much gruesome stuff, right? Because you see the bullet wound, blood splatter, you see his hand on a gun, but you don't actually see his dead body there. You see like his leg and his hand with the gun.
Yeah.
But like for the bullet to exit, he would have had to have been turning one way. It's clearly in his right hand, so he must have like looked away from his family with his right hand and shot himself in the head through there to have that exit wound out the vehicle.
Nelson reports the CPR is not working and asks Joe to take over, while Randy says that she's now been under for 4 minutes. David stops using the bag valve mask and switches to manually breathing with his mouth.
I wonder why. No. He doesn't do that. No one ever did that with any of the dudes. It was always the bag, and
right.
now it's a woman. Okay, yeah, I'm gonna go mouth to mouth. That's fine. It's just I don't know.
Nelson wants to use beryllium, and David tells him not to do it because it'll fry her brain. I read a lot about it. There's some places that don't use it anymore, but
America
it sounds
doesn't
like
use it anymore. Yeah.
Yeah, but it sounds like some places have brought it back into use.
Hey, if a company can't make money on that drug, why the hell are you going to use it? Come on.
Yeah. Randy asks Nelson not to do it. He's trying to prepare his arm for ejection. David keeps pleading with him. He tells David that you better bring her back.
And as he's getting ready, he just kind of taps her behind the elbow, gonna get her vein ready. He didn't wipe isopropyl on that to clear that. Like, come on, man. Try to do a little aseptic.
Bring her back, but she's gonna have an infection.
She's gonna have a blood infection now, man. No.
So they deliver 2 more rounds of CPR. Randy calls for silence because he hears her heartbeat. They all listen, and David gets the O2, puts it in her face, and declares she's back. But it's a little bit later. Randy still wants to know why David stopped them, and he tries to tell him that something very strange happened to him on the L, and Nelson acts like, oh, something happened on the train, so that's why you're stopping the experiment. He's trying to play off that nothing serious is happening.
Yeah, he's trying to hide it from everybody else.
And he tells him that there was this little girl named Winnie Hicks that when he was in elementary school, the group of kids used to make fun of her. That girl was there on the train today, but she was still only 10 years old. Randy wants to believe it was just a hallucination. Joe comes over to say that he's seen some weird things in the past, and he was worried that it would be brain damage. And Randy doesn't miss an opportunity to say, in Joe's case, it probably is.
But in both cases, you don't want somebody else, even if it is brain damage, then go get some kind of brain scan to kind of see. Then you can at least rule it out and then continue the experiment if it's not. Or, okay, well, this is a thing. But no one says shit. Like, everybody's scared. I guess he's scared of what Nelson will say. But, yeah. Ugh.
Joe
Yeah.
tells him to shut off the camera because it's personal, and Joe reveals that he's haunted by all these women he videotaped during sex without their knowledge. Randy is shocked by this, but David wants to know what has come looking for Nelson. Nelson tells him that he thinks his name is Billy Mahoney, who was an 8-year-old kid that they used to pick on in school.
Yeah, we don't know why he's picking on this poor kid, or like if Billy Mahoney did something and he just got a bunch of friends to try to defend himself. I don't know. I think judging the way Nelson acts, I think he was just being an asshole to this poor kid. But we'll see what happens later on.
Right. Nelson says it's no big deal. David wants to know what really happened to his face, and Nelson says sometimes Billy gets a little carried away. Randy's freaking out. It's like actual physical contact. He's like, I can understand David nodding off in a train and Pervert here having a couple of flashbacks, but physical contact isn't possible.
Yep.
Best lines of the movie.
Yeah.
Joe says that it's too weird, and Nelson says they experienced death and they brought their sins back, and now they're pissed.
Oliver Platt's character is kind of akin to, he's like Bill Murray's character in Ghostbusters, just like saying random things kind of in the background. It's just like, yeah.
David wants to know when Nelson knew about it. He says he started suspecting after Joe went, which means he knew before David went. But even more than that, David is pissed that he knew before Rachel went.
Yep.
Randy says it's unethical for him to withhold findings from them, and Nelson thinks that if Rachel comes back with the answers to life and death, it would be worth it. And he adds that she was under for 5 minutes. He's like so proud of that fact. He believes that if she has those answers, the world will worship her, and all 3 of the other guys look at him with disdain.
Yeah. I don't know why he thinks. I don't know if people that made medical advances in the 80s were seen as medical gods or something. Like I don't know where. I mean, just going through biology courses and stuff, learning about different medical stuff. When I worked in a hospital, I know there was like some doctors that came up with some like open heart surgery techniques back in the 70s and 80s, and yeah, they were renowned. Their pictures were everywhere, but the general public couldn't care less. So it's like the whole world will worship her. I'm like, okay, man, definitely like inflating it a lot, I think.
Right. David goes to check on Rachel, who says she's fine. She thinks they're still coming up, and she says that she needs some space. The light in the room turns red, and in the mirror, she sees her father behind her.
You can kind of see that since we didn't see him dead in the truck, but without a doubt, you see a exit wound, I believe it would be. That's on his left side. But yeah, it's not like super gory or gruesome or scary, but it's just kind of like, oh, you could almost kind of paint it off with the way the lighting is. Maybe it's just moisture.
It seemed like her hallucinations started really fast, and I thought it was maybe because she was under for 5 minutes. But
yeah, because like Nelson saw Champ later on that night. So my take was that she has been repressing this trauma to the same extent that Nelson and David had been. In Joe's case, you don't really have any emotional feelings to the experience. It's more like a guilt.
Right.
And I don't know. I feel like everybody else is on like a higher maturity level as far as emotional and how you treat other people compared to the way Joe treats people, it seems. But I think that's probably why his visions are delayed compared to everybody else's. And I think she's just more in touch with it. Clearly, she has all those books too about death. So she's at the very least definitely open to the experience as well. But it could be also be that she was under much longer as well.
But I like your answer. That's something I had never thought about. And I've seen this movie a lot in my life. Okay. I love this movie. There's definitely details that you're pointing out that I didn't notice in who knows how many times I watched this movie.
Yeah, I think that's what makes a good movie. You know, while this one's dated, they're walking around with like phones you have to dial and stuff like that, not cell phones, but it can be interpreted multiple ways instead of just like, this is what happened and forcing it down the viewer's throat. You're going to either alienate people that don't agree, whereas this, it's not clear exactly what's happening. So it's open to interpretation. And I don't know. Yeah, just a lot of things to think about if you want to take to that next step and talk about a movie like we are doing right now.
So we cut to Nelson, who's adding more locks to his door. He adds this bar across the door. David is with Rachel, who's asking if the things from the past want revenge, but he isn't sure how it works. He says if anything happens to give him a call. She asks if the people they have wronged, which makes him think that something did happen, but she denies it. In the living room, Joe and Randy ask David if she saw anything, and then starts asking how the kid attacked Nelson. David seems to snap at them, but they tell him that they just want the whole group to be informed. So David apologizes and tells them that he will stay with Rachel so they can go home.
Yeah, it's interesting because, like, obviously, all the guys, it's all stems from a guilt of what they did as a kid, from bullying, and Nelson and David's case, recording, making videos of a very intimate moment of when people didn't agree to this, as well as lying to women to get them to do that with you. But hers is just like, yeah, the psychological trauma that was laid upon her by her mother. So, yeah, it's just different. And so she obviously, no one's coming after me because she's experiencing something entirely different than everybody else.
Right. Back to Nelson, trying not to fall asleep. He's still holding the screwdriver that he installed that new bar on the door with. And we see the moment he falls asleep as he drops the screwdriver.
Getting some Nightmare on Elm Street vibes. Like, it only happens after he kind of nods off. And it's interesting too because it's almost like he's experimenting, I guess. Like, he puts this lock on, will this happen to me? Because he's not like going about his day. He's literally sitting there on the floor for maybe a couple of hours as he's just messing with a screwdriver. And let me tell you, if you don't want to fall asleep, you should maybe like occupy yourself, maybe drink some coffee. If you've ever watched Nightmare on Elm Street, there's many ways to try to keep yourself up. But yeah, like, he's just kind of sitting there like, yeah, I don't know. But anyways, that's what he does. And Billy shows up and takes that screwdriver and hits him across the face with it. So, yeah.
Yeah. Which splatters some blood in the floor and he goes back unconscious.
Mm-hmm.
We come back to Rachel, who's getting out of bed. She's dressed. She sees her father in the mirror. And though she turns around, he's not there. She's running out and David wants to talk to her, but she says it's late and she needs to stop her, but doesn't tell David who her is.
Mm-hmm.
Rachel makes it back to the hospital. Mrs. Amsler has already passed away, and the nurse tells her that she has to get used to losing people, which is unfortunate but true.
It's very true. There's so many different professions that deal with people. Obviously, in the medical field, you're dealing with people potentially dying or being diagnosed with a horrible illness. There's just a lot, and you got to kind of protect yourself as well as giving care to the people.
We cut to a scene in the playground where the four kids are tormenting Winnie Hicks. The movie never really covered why they were teasing this girl, other than the fact that they seem to have convinced her, as we meet her later as an adult, that she was ugly.
Yeah, we don't know their motivations, honestly, of why, because we don't know why Nelson is tormenting Billy Mahoney. We don't know why they were. I guess it was just because the way she looked, which that's what kids do. Kids are assholes, man.
Yeah.
Some kids are assholes. Not all of them, but yeah. I mean, so, anyways.
Sure. Then we get a scene where women are walking up to Joe and treating him like a piece of meat. They're using all these pickup lines that he's used on women before, and these are probably the lines that he told these specific women.
The first one, it's outside, and he's walking to his apartment, so he's out on the street. I guess it must have been another med student because she mentions, I'm looking for a study partner. But again, is this actually happening, or is he just walking by somebody and it's kind of, he's hallucinating her? Because she doesn't interact, she doesn't touch with him. I don't think, like, the next ones as he walks into his apartment building, which we'll see, are also talking to him, but I don't think they're actually there in that case.
Yeah, no one's there.
Yeah.
And so he starts freaking out. He starts screaming, they aren't real. And when he gets to the top of the stairs to his bedroom, he sees that his fiancée, Anne, is there. He asks her how long she's been there, and she says she's been there long enough to watch his tapes, but she was worried about him after that phone call, so she took the bus to get there.
Yeah. So he kind of brought it upon himself in a way for his fear of what he's about to do. He hadn't even done the going under the experiment yet. Just going back, like the lines, then they call him Joe, Joey, Joseph, and one of the women actually says Carl. So he's clearly taken to the point where he's taking on pseudonyms to hit on these women to try to take them back to his house to record. It's just like gross. Like, but anyways, yeah, I just wanted to mention that this is the level of depravity this fucking asshole's at. Sorry, I have no love for this character, even though we share.
I get it. I can't tell. I couldn't tell. She says that the sad thing is that he's going to think that she's leaving him because he slept with all those women, but she's leaving him because he betrayed all those women's trust. And how could she start a marriage with a man who doesn't respect the trust? She hands him the ring back and then she leaves.
I think she should have kept that ring for him wasting her fucking time. But yeah, I don't know. She's a much better person than how I would have reacted. But anyways.
David's trying to call everybody in the phone book with the last name Hicks. He's crossed out a bunch, and we do see his successful attempt where he seems to get the information so easily out of somebody.
Yeah, it's weird. I know it's totally different. I guess they still make phone books. I don't even know if they still have all the addresses and stuff in there, if they look totally different. But yeah,
Yeah.
nowadays would be like Facebook and messaging somebody and waiting for them to reply to your message of some rando person asking about where their daughter lives or finding them themselves and hey, can I talk to you in person? Like maybe people were more trusting back then.
Then David's trying to leave, and Nelson comes up, and he's struggling to walk up the stairs because he's getting beat up more. He asks if he can go with David, and David says he's going to Bensonville, which is a 2-hour drive, but Nelson says he doesn't want to be left alone.
I think it says that and like David just totally understands. Obviously, he knows a little bit more about what's going on, but I think that kind of shows that David and Nelson kind of have more of a mutual respect for each other.
Yeah, like they've been friends a long time.
Yeah.
Rachel's working on an assignment, but is bothered when Joe comes over to ask her how she's doing. She's like, I'll be fine if you guys stop asking me. When Randy asks, Joe tells him that he was freaking out and Rachel's fine. Randy tells Joe that him getting kicked out of med school won't win him Anne back, so he needs to focus on his assignment.
Yeah, they're about to dissect some bodies.
Right. And then the lighting in the room changes. Rachel looks down at the body that she's working on and seems to have a tattoo that her father had.
Airborne Division. Yeah, it's a skull with a parachute.
She looks up to his face and he sits up, reaches for her, so she naturally freaks out, runs out of the classroom. Joe and Randy try to chase after her, but they're stopped by the professor that tells them to get to work or suffer the consequences. Joe says fuck it and runs after her.
And as the body, it's her father, and yeah, you can see the side of his face with the exit wound or the entry wound.
David and Nelson arrive at Winnie's house. Nelson thinks she won't even remember him, but David says it's worth a try. Nelson opts to stay in the Jeep and tells him if anything happens, just honk the horn.
I will say, just foreshadowing, I guess when you're sleep deprived, paranoid, it's a difficult task to remember to just honk the horn if you need help.
Sure. He rings the bell, and first we get a little girl that answers, and then when he comes, it sends her back inside. David tells her who he is. They went to the same elementary school together and shows him that his friend Nelson's in the truck. Nelson waves, hi, shouts it loud enough, but when we zoom in closely, he's mumbling, I'm nice, he's nice, we're both fucking lunatics. Can I come in, please? Which is awesome.
Yeah.
She lets David in, and our view stays outside with Nelson, where we get a shot of the Jeep from above. Like a bird's viewing on it. But then we have like a child circling the Jeep.
Like kind of crouched child, like trying to stay out of the vision of the mirrors.
Sneaking around. Winnie's brought David to the greenhouse. He gets to the point really quickly, and he starts apologizing for the way they treated her as a kid. She claims like she doesn't even remember the way they made her feel, but he says that he knows how they treated her as a kid, and he apologizes. Back outside, Nelson wakes up to see Billy running past some trees. He goes to roll up the windows really quickly and lock the doors, and then starts screaming for David. Inside, Winnie's husband, Ben, comes to check on her, but she tells him that she is fine. So he and his daughter, it looked like the daughter had went to go get her dad. Mm-hmm. They leave her alone to talk to him. David tells her that his intention wasn't to make her feel bad or trying to hurt her again. He says he's going to go and start to walk away. And when he calls his name and turns to him and says, thank you, he asks if she's sure, and she nods, and which he whispers thanks back. Nelson realizes the flap on the back of the Jeep is open, and he goes back there to try to secure it. He's still screaming for David. He looks up. Billy is there. The light is turned all blue. Billy attacks him with an ice climbing pickaxe, and Nelson defends himself with a baseball bat and is able to land a hit in return.
Yeah.
Billy gets the upper hand here, but they both struggle with the axe. Billy pressed against it to the side of his face, which cuts him and makes him scream.
This scene, I just remember this when I was a kid, and it was just always made me think he was like a little kid-sized Grim Reaper, because the pick almost kind of looks like a scythe, and he has the hood on, and he's just like laughing maniacally as he's inflicting pain upon Nelson. Yeah, it's not quite a Jeep. It's like a military truck, and it's like a canvas covering over it, so it's definitely super probably from the 70s or something like that, how old this vehicle might be. So yeah, it's big enough where it's like a truck bed where you could lay in the back of it. So he's like struggling with him. Just for the listeners, it's not like some like really tight space as like when I think of a Jeep, I think of like a smaller vehicle. So, but yeah, they're struggling, and David gets out there, immediately tries to open the door, and it's obviously locked and the window rolled up, and his first thought, friend's in trouble. grab a rock and smash the window to unlock the door. As he's also screaming Nelson's name, I believe, at this point too. But like, it's canvas back there. You can just go and do that instead of paying for a whole new window. But anyways, it's like
Yeah.
tense. You're like, oh shit, my buddy's having problems. So I get it. But yeah, that's where you see him, and it's just Nelson holding the ice pickaxe thing, and it's like I think at this point it's kind of driving into his shoulder. But David kind of shakes him, wakes him up, and he looks startled and comes
Yeah.
out of it.
Yeah, it's crazy that they would be
Yeah.
doing this to themselves.
Yeah.
As they drive back, we see Joe and Randy sitting on the steps. David gets out of the Jeep and they've asked where he's been. And he looks up at Rachel. She says that she's fine for someone that's been seeing her father who's been dead for 20 years.
Yeah.
Nelson gets out of the Jeep and Rachel thanks him for the nightmares. He tells her that they all wanted to ride in his coattails, so welcome aboard. She gets after him for withholding information. Joe jumps in how they've all risked and lost thing. Randy jumps in to tell them how unethical he thought the whole thing was from the start. And Joe tells Randy to shut up because he hasn't risked a thing since he's the only one that never went under.
But Joe's the only person that lost something, but it's not really because of him going under.
Right. It's
from the experiments is from his fucking sleazy actions that he's done.
Right. Exactly. David tells them all to stop because they're all in this together. And I joked around, cue the High School Musical song. Rachel says that she isn't because she doesn't drag her friends down with her. Nelson asks what has really happened to the rest of them. Joe got caught with his videotapes down. David swore at a little girl on a playground. And Rachel's having bad dreams about her daddy. So he's like downplaying all their issues.
Yeah, it's interesting. Like you said, the commentary about Joe's character. And like they say, like the videotape's down, like his pants are down. Like no one's like immediately like, you're recording? Yeah. Anyways, they're still associating with this creep.
Yeah.
Lay off
him. No, I get it. She tells him that he doesn't know anything about her, but he points out that David must. Then he grabs her and tells her to look in his face because she wants to see death, and death is beautiful. David yanks him off, saying that he's hurt her enough already, and David orders Joe and Randy to take Nelson to find Billy Mahoney.
Yeah.
Joe doesn't understand how finding him will help, but David tells them not to leave him alone. Nelson explains that David thinks that he has solved their problems, and their answer to their problem is atonement, which the scriptwriter said is the whole point of this film, is atonement.
Yeah. It's basically kind of getting past your past guilts, I guess. Yeah.
David catches up to her, asking why she won't talk to him. We cut to his apartment where Rachel is telling him that her father shot himself when she was 5, and she explains about the door she wasn't supposed to go in. David says it was a kid, and kids always feel responsible, but it isn't their fault. And I think he really means like in divorces and stuff. Kids always seem to feel responsible, but it's not their fault.
No, but in this case, it's like your mom. It's your fault.
Yeah,
it's
like,
your
fault.
Yeah,
right. Yeah. She believes that he said it was people that they have wronged want revenge, which I don't think he actually ever said. David tells her that when he talked to Winnie Hicks, he felt like it had lifted off of him. She points out that Winnie Hicks is still alive and her father's not.
Yeah, basically what they found is potentially more of an expensive version of therapy, because you can dig through your past guilts and potentially go and right them by talking to the people, which depending on what you did, the person might not want to fucking talk to you and hate your guts forever. So they're not finding what they set out to find, obviously. So
Joe is driving Randy and Nelson around in his 1966 Ford Mustang. Nelson tells Joe to pull over. He grabs the keys out of the ignition and runs. And then Randy and Joe run after him. Nelson yells that he knows a shortcut. They're climbing through this back area. Nelson starts acting like a kid a lot, like chanting things you would say as a kid, like Ollie Ollie Oxenfree and last one over is a rotten egg. Mm-hmm. All through this thing, as they're running, they end up in a graveyard.
It's interesting because he knows this area clearly, but in his vision quest, it's like in an open field. So I don't know. Maybe it's like in the outskirts of Chicago, I guess. But this is where Billy lives now.
Yeah, he shows him the gravestone and tells him that he put him there. And we see the final events in this flashback. While they were throwing rocks, one that Nelson throws pegs him. We see the shock faces on all the boys as they know something's gone terribly wrong. And we see that he's fallen, knocked over a big branch, which actually also hit Champ, which explains why we see Champ with a limp. Then we cut back out of the flashback. Nelson tells them that he was taken away from his family when he was 9 and sent to Stoneham School for Boys, and he yells that he thought he paid his dues.
Yeah, not quite, bud. Someone died, and you just got to live away from your folks. But I don't know. Yeah, like for that, like if he had a family and they were, I guess he had jail time. I don't know.
I guess it's more like to society he had paid his dues,
Yeah, I
right?
guess.
It's like when someone's let out of prison and it doesn't take away the horrendous act that they did.
I mean, it
But I think
depends. I
that's
mean, I think that it should come from the victims. Yeah, I don't know. Criminal justice is, yeah. Oh man, not good. But that's what happened to him. So you just imagine what may have happened while he was at the boys' school. Obviously, he wasn't a nice kid, but maybe he became a bully who learned to bully more while he was there, or maybe just manipulate people because he seems to be doing that pretty well here. But yeah,
I mean, at some point, I think he went back to his family
okay.
because he seems to have money, like more money. Because that apartment, there's no way someone in med school would be able to afford that apartment.
But it's also an old place, so I mean, being Chicago, there's definitely probably not any central air in any of those
Okay,
apartment buildings.
I get what you're saying.
I know other parts of the country you absolutely must have AC. Chicago, you really don't need to. There's probably gonna be a couple of days that'll be pretty cold, but you get a window unit, pretty hot in the summertime. But yeah, they all have heat, or they better, or you're gonna freeze your ass. So who knows? We don't know. I mean, he could have gotten a full ride scholarship, and maybe the apartments aren't in like the nicest areas either. Like they're
Yeah.
walking around at
Okay.
night, but they look kind of definitely older buildings, and the neighborhood looks pretty run down.
Okay. Randy tells him that it was an accident and that they should all go home. But Nelson says that David is right and he needs to make amends. He says he knows how, and he says he needs to borrow Joe's car, and he runs off.
How do you make amends with somebody who's dead? So clearly, he has to go and talk to Billy
See,
the only way he knows how.
yeah, but he could have just prayed. I'm telling you. I'm just kidding.
Something
um,
tells me that Nelson is not the most devout man of faith. But
right.
yeah,
We see David and Rachel are asleep in bed together when a bathroom light door opens, bringing a little bit of blue light in, which slowly turns red. We hear a phone ringing. She gets up and goes towards the bathroom. And when she's in there, it transforms into the bathroom from her childhood with her father sitting in it. As she walks up, you could see a silhouette coming towards the bathroom. It's David who's knocking on the door. When he does, it snaps out of this vision. He says that Nelson freaked out and he needs to go help the other two because he's the only other one with a car. He asks if she'll be okay, and then they have a kiss before he goes. She has one more look around, but the bathroom isn't the same one from her childhood. Her father isn't there. We
see my
see,
point about communication and talking to people you're romantically interested.
huh?
Just saying. They moved on to kissing.
They got out of bed together. I think they might have done more than that.
I don't know. Maybe.
I think it's implied.
Yeah, it's unclear. Yeah, it could have been that they're just all fucking tired. Because, like, clearly they're going to med school still, and then they're staying up late doing these experiments that are running. Dying probably wreaks so much havoc on your body, obviously. So, like, they're
They didn't have
probably,
the
I don't know.
they didn't
Yeah.
have the energy.
But maybe they did. Maybe they are like superhuman med students that can go, die, come back, dealing with trauma, and be like, hey, fancy a shag. Anyways.
Back to Rachel, and the place again slowly turns to red. She's now walking through her childhood home. She sees her mom ironing. Then she looks up to see the door she's not supposed to enter. On the way up the stairs, she starts crying. When she's finally inside, she looks over her father's shoulder, who's preparing for some drugs for an injection.
Yeah, melting it in a spoon, drawing it up,
Yeah,
or dissolving it. I'm not sure.
yeah. Wikipedia says it was morphine, but the movie doesn't ever specify.
Yeah.
He
Morphine or
turns
heroin, I would assume.
He turns around and apologizes to her, asking if she could forgive him. As they hug, we see the walls in the room transform. The room seems to slowly get bigger, and she cries as they hug.
Hmm.
We see David pick up Joe and Randy tells him that Billy Mahoney died 17 years ago, and Nelson feels responsible. David asks if they know where he went, and Randy says he was talking about making amends. David asks if they think he would flatline without him, and Joe says that would be suicide.
But it just seemed before Rachel kind of works out her stuff with her dad being dead. So I think that's showing that it could happen.
Okay. Yeah.
So yeah.
Rachel hears the phone ringing again, thinking it's David, picks it up, but it's Nelson. He's telling her that he's sorry. She's saying none of it matters anymore. She's trying to explain that it's all worked out for her, but he's not listening. He tells her he's got to go under again, and she tries to keep him on the phone, but he says sorry and hangs up.
Yeah. I think he does apologize to her, but I think this is like kind of a cry for help, just to manipulate her to, hey, I'm going to do this. I got to do this by giving her no choice in the matter. Well, I mean, I guess she has two choices, knowing that he's going to do this and being okay with him dying if she's potentially not there, or getting her there to help him bring him back. And knowing her character to the point where she is a caring person that clearly has
Right.
stayed the night with everybody who's gone under to make sure they're okay and play nurse. So yeah.
Yeah. She didn't stay with Joe, though.
Yeah, but who wants to stay with Joe? Everybody knows his. Yeah, it's just next thing you know, you're afraid to fall asleep there because, like, oh Jesus, what are you doing, dude? Yeah, fucking creeper.
We see Nelson hang up the payphone. He's right outside the building. Rachel running out of the apartment. She's trying to make it there on foot. Nelson is setting up the bed and drawing up some potassium, intended to stop his own heart. Then Randy is saying that if he had flatlined, his babysitter would have been chasing him around wanting the half-eaten pastrami sandwich he stole from her. Nelson injects the potassium and is lying under a warming blanket. He reaches for the gas, breathes it in, and his eyes go wide. As he is dying, he goes back into his vision quest. We are flashing through all the times he was attacked in the movie. We cut back and forth to them running through the field. This time it's Billy leading the group of boys with Champ, and they're chasing Nelson. We hear his heart rhythm going completely erratic, and then he flatlines. We see the three guys pulling up in David's vehicle. They don't even take time to turn it off. They all run inside. They find out that he's potassium, and they use the paddles to shock him. The whole time we're cutting back and forth to seeing what Nelson is seeing. As they shock him the second time, it doesn't work. Rachel's now running up in the building. She gets inside and tells him that he called 9 minutes ago, though I have to assume it took him a few minutes to die.
Yeah.
David calls for them to intubate him and start compression. Rachel tries the intubation, but she can't get the endotracheal tube past his trachea as it's too tight. Joe jumps in trying to help by massaging his throat. Rachel gives up and starts breathing manually. David calls for atropine. Rachel believes that they've already lost him, but David doesn't want to give up. Rachel wants to give him epinephrine intracardial. Joe says no, but David says just do it, and we see her stab him right in the chest.
The more famous scene of that happening is Pulp Fiction. But
Pulp Fiction.
Yeah.
I knew you were going to say that, yeah.
And I guess because they're doing this because he obviously used a different method to flatline himself since he was solo, so they have to try to get the endotracheal tube and just trying to do other things and looking at other medications to kind of bring him back.
They start going through this thing for a long time. It's been past 12 minutes. David doesn't want to stop, but the group actually convince him to stop. He starts hitting other pieces of equipment that are around the area.
Mm-hmm.
While in the vision quest, he is up in the tree. They're throwing rocks at him. Billy Mahoney taunts him as the rock he knows is going to be the one to knock him out of the tree is thrown. He falls to the ground. This whole time, he is the young version of himself, like it has been on the vision quest. But when he hits the ground, he turns into the adult version of himself. David runs up, starts hitting him in the chest. The group, they're ready to call the cops and try to figure out what to do, but he says he can't let him die. In the vision quest, Billy Mahoney smiles at him like as if him going through the motions of what happened is enough to forgive him. And because he is currently dead, him and Champ walk towards this light and try to invite Nelson to walk to the light with them.
Mm-hmm.
But then Nelson hears all the people calling for him. He starts running through the field towards them. And we see David about to deliver another shock when Rachel tells him to wait. As she's listening to his heartbeat, she's taking his pulse with his wrist. Joe reports that they have a heart rhythm, and David encourages him to pick up the beat. Rachel keeps saying, don't rush him, and gives him the mask with oxygen. We see Nelson smile. David smiles back. Randy says, glory to God, Hail Mary, praise Jesus, and all that stuff. Nelson starts whispering. Randy wants to record it, but David doesn't let him. Instead, David puts his ear to him, and he reports to everyone that he says, it wasn't such a good day to die.
Yep.
Nelson tells the group thank you, and we zoom out of the room to a picture of Prometheus as he gave fire to man, which was being restored early in the film.
Yeah, and that's where the movie ends. There's no Maybe it's just a modern film thing. You kind of want to know what happens after, but we're kind of left at, I guess everybody has atoned for their stuff, I guess, except Joe. But that would be a really difficult thing to do, of finding, I don't know how many ladies, but I don't know. It definitely it shows like the time when it was made, because like the cast of women, right, like was there 16 different women that were named as the credits go up, and they're titled Joe's Women. I think it should have been called Women Joe Misled. Joe's Women implies ownership.
Yeah.
Anyways, it was
I mean,
filmed at the Museum of Science and Industry and Loyola University in Chicago, and then different points around Chicago for the apartments and their exterior. Joel Schumacher did direct music videos. I did try to look and see what he directed. The only one I saw that he definitely directed prior to making this film was In Excess, Devil Inside. And you watch it, and he definitely does the lighting techniques that he uses in their visions in reality, or whatever, however you want to put it, in
right.
their flashbacks. So I thought the cast was pretty good. I think they're all decent actors, and he's right. Putting any older city that has like old sculpture and just older buildings just has more character than modern stuff. But I'm sure in like 40 years, people will be looking at our modern society and our architecture that we have right now, of new buildings, and be like, wow, amazing. So I don't know. Beauty in the eye of the beholder, I guess.
Thank you everybody for listening. We have episodes every Monday. Please give us a 5-star review on your platform of choice, and hopefully you hear us again next time. Bye.